There we go. Hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I'm honored again today to be hanging out with a cool chick that has been, I've been involved with her organization over my career. So it's just an honor, Lynnea, to hang out with you today from the Revitalize Milwaukee. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's an honor for me to be with you. I've been able to
Wow.
watch you grow and turn your business into something that's amazing. So congratulations.
Wow, thank you so much. Full disclosure, my favorite stuff, some of the favorite memories that I have were investing a half a day or a full day in volunteering for you to be able to help somebody with something. To me, I help people every day in my business. There's something special about helping somebody that really can't afford to have it done any other way. You know, I work with a lot of people that can afford me, obviously, and that's one thing, but it's completely different. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's different when somebody really needs what you have and they can't afford it, and you're able to kind of walk in and they got a big old smile on their face and you do what they want you to do. And I just had so much fun. So I want to say thank you because you've invested 15 years of your life doing this.
Yeah.
And so, you know, tell us a little bit about Revitalize Milwaukee, what that has evolved into for you as we get started today.
Sure. Yeah. So it's been 15 years since I've been here. You know, we were talking offline before, and it's interesting. Getting here was not at all planned in a lot of ways. You know, I was left the corporate world and I was looking for something part-time, non-stress, and I was the first executive director for this organization that at that time was doing 10 homes a year.
Wow.
And yeah, and we were really geared at, you know, helping people stay in their homes and give them the much needed support that homeowners really lack, and even
Sure.
still today, you know. So it was one of those opportunities that I thought, oh, I'll do this for a little bit, help them out, get them going. You know, this is going to be easy.
Sure.
And then I got the bug that you got on that one day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why is no one doing anything more?
Yeah.
Let's do something about this. And here we are 15 years later.
That's so cool. And that's where I love that about the podcast is we find that intersection between the personal, you know, growth and business growth. So when you started the first year and you said it was 10 homes that you were working on, in 2019, what was your number at for that year?
For last year. So
Yeah.
our houses were 361.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you do. I remember, you know, I have no mechanical. For anyone that wants to know, I have zero mechanical inclinement. You know what, I have a guy or I have a girl or I have a company that does all that for me. You know what, changing my own oil, no interest here, right? But you know, it was so cool because I shared that with you, and you you gave me like jobs that still were meaningful for the people, but yet were things that were desperately needed. And so, tell me a little bit what you know, who's an ideal, you know, person for Revitalize Milwaukee, and what are some of the things that you know help them with along the way?
Yeah. Our whole goal is, again, to keep people in their homes and age in place. And what that looks like is so unique and different for every single homeowner. So
Sure.
our ideal homeowner, you know, has been in their community for, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. They have been a part of the fabric of the culture there.
Okay.
They often have multiple generations either living in their house or did live in their home. And they're really, for all intents and purposes, incredibly resourceful, proud individuals who have fallen on hard times and they really need some help. And you know, as we get older, or as I get older, I should say, you know, we have the classification of senior, which is comical because it's 60 and older. So as I approach that, I am going to have to find another way of referring to that category because that's not working for me, and I'm sure for many others. Because we're not at all seniors, but at the same token, you know, the resiliency of the folks that we help, and then we also service people with disabilities, and then of any age. And then we also do veterans and their families.
Okay.
One of the greatest gifts that I've gotten to experience is talking with these individuals and learning how they've overcome things that would probably stop most people dead in their tracks.
Sure.
And I think there's a common conception out there that the people who need social services or need services from somebody else or needs help from someone else are really that they're just not working hard enough, or that they've done something wrong, or they should have just not bought this or not bought that, or pull their bootstraps up or get another job. And a lot more grace and understanding needs to be had in those realms to really truly understand some of the challenges and, like I said, the resilience. So it's given me a
Wow.
lot of strength.
That's so cool. Isn't it
Yeah.
easy to fire shots at people when you're not in their shoes? I mean, and that's
All
what
day.
really helped me, because again, it's been a while, so I'm due for another day of volunteering. So keep me posted on when I can jump back in. I just remember the intimidation that I had walking into someone else's house. I don't know if they're as intimidated or not, but there are certain people. I can remember one in particular that there was just like an instant connection, and she was so grateful and I was so grateful, and there was just that mutual grace there, and then there's others that, there's friction. Why are you here? It's kind of like, what do you get out of it? I mean, you're invading somebody's safe space. So
Hmm.
to let someone in, like this is obviously tough. So I think it's awesome when you talk about that grace, because it is rare to find, now more than ever, where people are trying to accept other people. So I think, again, it was as a volunteer, whatever you call that, one that volunteered, if that's the volunteer, whatever, I
Hmm.
really enjoyed, and it changed me so much that I actually, one of the next times I brought my kids back, and they helped, and we were just, we were having a blast. And my son is way more mechanically inclined than me, so he was willing to do stuff that I'm like, dude, I'm tapping out here. Okay. But if you want to do it, and they were successful, and I mean, when you start talking about people's plumbing, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, this is stuff like we were talking before. We take this for granted. And
Hmm.
some people are living without this in our own city. I mean, this isn't even, another country. This is, right in our own town. So how do
Yeah.
you find these people right now? I mean, there's a plethora of them out there, I'm
Mhm.
assuming. How do you make that connection?
Yeah. So over the years, I've built up a lot of networks that have been able to refer
Okay.
people. Because one of the most important things for me is really to find people who truly are needing our services the most, right? So Department of Aging, the city refers a lot of people. We have a lot of connections with the neighborhood groups. And right now, it's interesting. The safe at home order was geared towards, the fact that, our governor and elected officials thought that most of us would be safer at home. But if you're in a situation where you're having the worst moment in your life and you're experiencing a situation where there's no plumbing, for example, in your home, it's just simply not working,
Yeah.
or your toilet's not working, and you've been maybe hiding the fact of that by going to a fast food restaurant or gas
Sure.
station or a friend's house to shower or bathe or whatever,
Sure.
and all of a sudden all those safety nets are really shut off around you.
Yeah.
It's been really eye-opening, and to try and explain that to people that maybe have more or been from a place that they've worked really hard for what they've got, and not understanding, like you said before, a day in their shoes
Yeah.
where someone could possibly be in that situation. So systems that were already either failed or were at the point of on the brink of failure just crashed and burned.
Sure.
So over the last few months, we've actually done 121% more projects
Wow. Nice.
um, since the same time last year, and then had a correlation of a 240% increase in our expenses. Because when someone's major plumbing system fails, their shutoff valve literally pops off the wall because it was corroded and the pressure was too much for it.
Yeah.
that is, obviously a lot more from an expense standpoint than it would be if we had gotten to it sooner or we've been notified about it sooner. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So so people, you have a bunch of those connections. How about on the reverse side from the volunteering side? Is that the same situation, or where do you find your workforce for these volunteer type projects?
Yeah, so great question. So, unbeknownst to most people, we actually are basically a nonprofit construction company.
Okay.
So, we pay our contractors. They're licensed city contractors, and they go out to the homes and do work just like you would have hired somebody to do work at your home.
Okay.
We do have a number of volunteer projects throughout the year, but they're generally focused on, larger type of project, so we can get people who want to give back and want to have that direct connection with who they're helping,
Sure.
be able to do that. But I would say probably 75 to 90% of our work is done by paid
Okay.
contractors.
Gotcha.
And we've actually grown over the years for really well organized turnkey volunteer opportunities for corporates
Oh,
clients,
nice.
because you want to provide an experience that's meaningful, and really at this point in time everyone's overworked and underpaid, so you want to find somebody who's going to do this for you, do it really well, and allow you to look like a hero, right, from a
Sure.
company standpoint.
Yeah.
So we were doing a lot of those, and we were really successful with those. And then, of course, COVID hit,
Sure.
right? So we had 4 in the books for this year, and we are doing our block build this year, though.
Hmm.
Made a decision. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I'm a risk taker,
Yeah.
and we'll do everything we can to keep people safe. But the community still needs our help, and the block build and the volunteer projects are really an opportunity for us to really almost do more for individuals, because there's so many people there willing and able to help. And like you said, there's just jobs for everybody. And
Sure.
um, we meet people where they're at, and we try and elevate them so that they can walk out of their home being proud homeowners and know that they're safe.
Yeah. Wow. I'll
Yeah.
never forget. I was so excited. I'm really good now because of the time I invested with you guys. I'm really good at taking that strip and putting it on the stairs to make it non-slip.
Yep.
Never would have thought, to the point where I bought some and put it on mine, because from the garage to the basement, there's so many things. The lady that we did that for that day was afraid to go down the steps because she was feeling like she was going to slip and fall. And so simple little things like that we don't even really, we just take for granted every day. How do you work? How do you decide the scope? How do you go into a house and decide, Lynnea, what's needed? What's like on the must-have versus wish list? How do you guys do that?
That's a good question. That's a difficult question too. Yeah, if we were only to have all the money in the world, right?
Sure.
Um, First, we're focused on safety and accessibility, right? So
Okay.
you can have the most beautiful home in the city, but if you can't navigate the stairs or get in and out of your home, or get on and off your own plumbing, or make a meal, you can't really function well, and it's not going to end. Um, Particularly good for the homeowner. So
Sure.
our focus is on safety and accessibility, and then we look for deferred maintenance, and then of course trying to make sure that the outside is safe as well. So inside and outside. So it really comes down to a function of time of year, and also availability of funding. We're 99.9% nonprofit, not government funded. So we're individually, people give us government, or pardon me, grants, and then also events and things. So it's really a function of all these different pieces coming together. It's like, when I say it's a nonprofit construction company, there's so many different pieces of it. And really, when it comes down to it, we're not any different at all than a regular business. We just don't post profit. So we have the same challenges and expenses. But it's a definitely difficult call, to say yes or to say no to, especially to people who are in desperate need.
Sure. Wow. Well, so the funny thing is like when I had my last company, we had 22 people on my team and I paid them to show up. So it was pretty safe bet that they were showing up.
Yeah.
You have volunteers, that's got to add in a whole nother, my neck hurts. I don't feel like showing up today, Lynnea. So, I mean, are you personally coordinating them, or do you have someone else on the team that coordinates the volunteers?
Yeah. So back when you came out, yes, I was coordinating the
Okay.
volunteers, but now we've grown and having a great team that's incredible. And everyone takes a piece of it, and they all support the organization's mission, and then also the experience for the volunteers. So it is very how do I put it? It's a juggling act because you can't
Yeah.
have too many, you can't have too few,
Yep.
and you want to make sure that everyone has an amazing experience at the end of the day. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So are you grant writing then for yourself, or do you have somebody doing that for you?
So I'm involved in the grant writing process.
Okay.
So we talk about there's like I guess a leadership role that I try and institute to help develop my team, but also make sure that I'm focusing on the highest and best purposes of the business, which is working on the business, not in the business, right?
Great. Great.
So what I try and do is make sure that I'm involved in the first 10% of something, let the team run with and manage the 80% that's in the middle, and then I'll be on the backside, the other 10%.
Wow, that's really cool. Where did you find that? Where did you learn that? Unpack that for us. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's not my idea, so I can't take credit for it.
Yes, you can. Take credit anyway.
But I can't take credit for sharing it. But I am an avid learner. I'm very invested in trying to figure out how to be better tomorrow than I was the day before. And what that looks like is constant learning, right? So
Mhm.
I am involved in a mastermind group that I am extremely excited about. That combined with reading, Harvard Business Review. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to books on tape. I'm constantly trying to challenge my own thinking so
Sure,
that I can then show up in a better and a refreshed way to help grow our business.
sure.
Growing a nonprofit is something I never saw myself doing. I've always been in corporate consulting and finance, and so this was kind of a surprise career for me. It wasn't intentional, and
Sure.
so but the fact that I'm here and the fact that I have such a passion for it, I'm also not of the, and this probably better than most people, I don't, I don't do failure well. So I'm pretty driven, and how then I show up is dependent on me and the choices I make.
Sure, sure.
So what that looks like is just constantly trying to say, okay, what's working, what's not, and then creating a new future, and then being able to measure it, right? And if I can't measure it, then I can't tell if I did a good job or not.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're involved. I want to really, because I've never heard that, and I love this, the 10-80-10.
Yeah.
So you've kind of you explore, you uncover opportunities, you're involved in that first 10% to kind of give the vision of what you see, this, whatever this is
Mhm.
happening. And then you hopefully do a smooth and seamless handoff to a group of people that are eagerly waiting for that baton. And then they then hand it back to you on the back end. And then what does that last 10 look like? Is that the presentation? Is that the signing of the contract? What does that in a sales kind of world look like,
Sure.
for you?
It depends on the level of delegation that the vision has been shared with.
Okay.
So there's certain parameters that the project is usually, geared around. So there might be something like in a sales environment where, hey, go and resource these three opportunities for vendors, come back and give me your top two and why.
Okay.
There might be another situation where somebody's been on the team for a long time, highly trusted, highly competent, highly able to execute and make good decisions. That might be, hey, I want you to go and do this. Before you sign the contract, just show it to me, and let's just talk about it quickly, and then have them execute it on your behalf. So there's like everything in between that. So it really depends on where the level of the team member is. And I think, one of the things that I appreciate about people is taking risk and then also failing forward, right?
Sure.
So everyone's not going to have the best answer, and includes me, but how do we set them up for success so that they can take it and run with it, and then be able to make those crucial mistakes
Sure.
to help them learn to how to, handle both conflict, disappointment, and then also opportunity.
Wow. So I got a tough question for you. So I do a lot of work with the DISC personality profiling.
Sure.
And in a DISC assessment, you can see the risk pretty much. You can get a pretty good feel for how risk averse people are. You'll run into people that they avoid risk like the plague. And then there's people like you that, when they see risk, they go towards it. So if you're working with somebody on your team and they are more risk averse, do you look at that as like a yin to your yang? Or is it more like, oh my gosh, you've got to get out of the comfort zone and you have to explore this risk with me? And again, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
I'm curious on your end how you see that.
That's a great question. And we just had our quarterly team planning session about a week ago. And I have people on my team on both sides of the spectrum. And what I really appreciate about the people who are more risk adverse than I am,
Mhm.
they help me frame it in a way, because sometimes I can also be too risky.
Yeah.
I do need to be pulled back, or I do need to be like, well, is this really going to work? Or are you kind of overshooting?
Sure.
So through the transparent conversation, it allows us to come to a place that feels good for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And it's a win-win, because if they don't buy into the vision, or whoever you're selling to, or your board, or your whoever it is, your spouse even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you're not listening to their fears and their hopes and their dreams just as much as somebody who's on the risk side, you're not going to be able to come at a solid place going forward, because believe it or not, stuff does go wrong, right? And no one wants to be you know told that I told you so, or I knew it wouldn't work out,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
But if you come at it from a place of, okay, here's the things that could go wrong, here's the things that could go right, and everyone's entering the conversation on the same level playing field, then when you're doing the after action review, or you're looking at it from a post event transaction, then you can really dig deep into what really did work and what maybe you should try differently next time.
Sure. Wow, that's awesome. So that's the funny part. If you and I hung out for a night of drinks with our spouses, we would go from Revitalize Milwaukee, that would be first, then it would be Revitalize Wisconsin, and then we'd be like, hey, you know what? Let's just make this a national thing, Revitalize America. And then we're like, my gosh, why does it have to stop there? So I love the people in my life that kind of, hey, let's tone this down a little bit, because otherwise I would be just like, you're everywhere going that way. So I think there's a real, when you can get a balance in your life and when people can help balance you out, that's where I think, the strongest teams have a little bit of everybody in a personality. Because if everybody was like me, I don't know about you, but man, I'd sell a ton, but nothing would get done, right?
Exactly.
We'd have a whole board full of sales, and then it'd be like, where's all the stuff getting done? Oh, don't worry about it. Let's go sell some more, And so I'm so thankful in all my, connections, that there were careers people that were like, hey, this is, I'll implement what you tell me to, but we gotta tone this down a tad. So that's good to have those both on your side. That's so cool. So yeah, your mastermind group is a group of people, CEOs that meet monthly, and you just work through some of the opportunities that you're going through, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so there's a whole host of things that happen on a weekly and monthly
Okay.
basis. So it is geared to learn some of these baseline skills and also be there for each other. That one of the most interesting things in my cohort, there's people who are sole practitioners. One person business all the way up to multi-million-dollar companies.
Sure.
And what's interesting is that every quarter when we get together and every week when we talk, we're all struggling with some of the same things. So it's marketing, it's technology, it's empowering and managing your teams,
Right.
growth of opportunity, visioning, trying to get investors, trying to get your operation system set up. So it's really geared towards being a sounding board that's confidential, obviously,
Sure.
for everybody,
Sure.
but also for, when they say, leadership can be lonely, it's true.
Yeah.
You can't go and have the same level of conversation that you would with a fellow CEO that you would with your team.
Right.
and appropriately so.
Yeah.
But at the same token, we do need outlets and also someone to inspire us from time to time when
Sure.
we're not feeling it,
Yeah, exactly.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. I mean, and that's as a coach, that accountability and that cheerleading piece is so huge. And that's really why I wrote, that's why I called my book Growing on Purpose, was
Hmm.
because there were so many people that I ran into and still run into that are growing by mistake. I
Right.
mean, they don't have a plan, they don't have anything, they don't have accountability around them. They really, to your point, they're working, on the business or in the business constantly. They're never looking up to see where they're going. So, that's where those are the people. I think there's so many of them, and they're so good hearted, and they're so
Mhm.
good at what they do. It's like, I've always asked myself, I think Michael Jordan's the best basketball player ever. And I'm like, what the heck would he need Phil Jackson for, his coach? What did
Right.
Michael Jackson, I say all the time, Michael Jordan, what would Michael Jordan need a coach for? And I'm like, I don't know, but he did. And if he does, and Tiger Woods is, one of the best golfers, these guys need a coach. I don't know what goes on there, but I know from my perspective, looking at a business from the outside in, that's really valuable. So I love the fact that you have this mastermind group, that you're able to have that accountability around you, because I think without that, so many companies, that's one of the big reasons I don't think companies can succeed, is they just have tunnel vision and they never really look at anything outside of, the norm. So
Right.
that's do you have a board of directors as well?
I do. And it's important to me, again, I'm not of the mindset that things should stay the same for very long, which probably drives my team a little nuts because, you know, but at the same token, I think you always have to be coming from an innovative mentality in order to try and stay ahead of the curve. Because
Right.
no, so my motto this year going into 2020 was be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I had no idea what that was going to mean.
So you caused all this. Thanks,
I
Lynnea.
did,
So
yeah.
this is your deal, because you and your smart idea of having some awkward saying. Nice.
Right. God, if I only knew at the time that I would have never chosen that, I
Oh my
swear.
gosh. Yeah.
But it's been, I try and look for the treasures inside the challenges, right?
Yeah.
And so what is it that's going to help me get to the next place in a positive way? And I was listening to a meditation today, and it was interesting because it was really, the clear meditation was about how it is so important that the end game is not where you end up, but the journey itself.
Sure.
So who you become and how you become what you become is because
Sure.
of the journey.
Yep.
And so how we choose to look at those opportunities, and you're very much an example of this. There's not a day that I've never seen a smile on your face. I'm sure there's been, but you're,
That's my wife.
yeah, exactly. Ditto.
Honey, come down here. I gotta talk to you. Talk to Lynnea for me.
But and we all have those moments,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But at
Yep.
the same token, we've got to self-regulate and shake ourselves off, and then go and find the help when we need it. But also just give ourselves the ability to have the grace and the pep talk when we need it as
Right.
well. So,
Yep.
because stuff goes wrong, and still, people need to rise above and find a way to deal.
Absolutely. And that's, it's journey versus destination is interesting, because when you think of it from a personality perspective, again, from a disc perspective, there are people that are built that the journey is of no consequence. All they care about is the end result. That's all they care. And that's how they were built. So you come along and you say, hey, check out the journey. They're like, I don't care. I just want to get this thing done. I want to accomplish something,
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're struggling with those, just realize that you might be built a certain way, and there's no right or wrong to it. It's just that you may have to acclimate your way every once in a while to somebody else's way. Because if I worked for Lynnea and she said, we're going to talk journey, I'd be like, journey, forget the journey. When are we going to sell something? When are we going to do something,
Yeah.
That to me is, I don't know why, I can't even really pinpoint why I fell in love with selling, when I did in my early, late teens probably is when it was. But even as a little kid, I can remember going door to door when paper was worth something.
Yeah.
We'd collect papers and, I'm like 9, 10 years old and I'm like trying to make money on this thing, so it's always been there. And if it's not for people, how do you deal? I guess my question is, how do you deal with people that are different than you, whether from a board perspective, whether from a team perspective, or the ultimate is the customer perspective? I mean, how do you deal with all those?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do have somebody who's on my board that is very much like you described, like Journey, what, and
Journey's
and
banned, so let's get out of here, right? Let's get this done.
exactly. But it's really interesting because I think the cool thing about relationships and being in the moment with relationships is really responding to people where they're at, right? So for anyone who's had a board or either for-profit or nonprofit, you've got anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 personalities that are incredibly different from another. Then you add your team onto that, then you add your donors onto that, and then you add your clients onto that. So I think being a good listener at the upfront, but also knowing your leadership style, knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then also trying to, like I said, meet them where they're at. So it's not about making somebody wrong or right. It's about understanding where they are and then help elevate them to whatever next level they want to be part of. Of course, if you're in a volunteer role, it's a different conversation than if you're paying an employee to do a task.
Right. Absolutely.
But for the most part, the vision is the same. And so, how do you help them see the goal, and then see where their strengths are and how they can be a part of the solution to get there. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, when we talk about engaged employees in our workplace, I mean, the statistics show that 1 in 3 people show up every day with 2 things on their mind. They want to improve themselves and they want to improve the company.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 could really, it's not on their radar. So, you're dealing with a tough, and that's on your board, that's in your team. I mean, that's like everywhere in that. So I think of 10 people on a little canoe. And I think 3 out of 10 people, if I had 10 people on my team, the statistics show that 3 of them only are rowing, right? 5 in the middle are just sitting like this, 5 out of 10, this isn't my job. They're trying to do as little as possible. They're sitting in the bathroom for an hour doing as little as possible, right? And then there's those back 2 that are standing, trying to rock the boat. They're actually trying to jump. They hate the place so bad. And they're like, Lynnea, this place sucks, man. They want me to work till 5 and show up at 8. I mean, this is ridiculous. We got to get out of here. I heard it's like 10 cents cheaper or 10 cents more down the road,
Yeah.
So that's the daily fight that I work with my clients on, how to teach those middle 5 to row, because the back 2, you know what, they're going to be gone anyway. In fact, you could probably shake the boat a little, they'll fall off, So I really can appreciate the team, that you have and the different layers of kind of like a customer in a board, but also the customer as the end user, the homeowner in this case. So they're pretty cognizant. You must spend a ton of time, investing in them on how to react and act to all those different groups, I would assume, correct?
Yeah, so we've been doing annual meetings as a team, and then we also do quarterly trainings. And then I encourage everyone to kind of see what they need out there, and if something looks good for them as far as an opportunity to learn about how they react or want to improve themselves to take advantage of it. One of the great things that I've just gotten feedback from the team is that we had a great quarter planning session. So we do them every quarter at the end of the quarter. So we look back and do an after action review, but we also look forward and say, okay, we have our quarterly goals that we outlined at the beginning of the year. Do they need adjusting? Do we need to add or take away or whatever?
Sure.
And some of the feedback was that the opportunity to learn is they're really enjoying what I'm bringing to them. So they really want to do more. So what we're going to do at the request of the team was to do a 2-hour training once a month. We have team lunches
Okay.
um, as a group. And so we're going to do 2-hour trainings. And that was one of my things is I wanted to bring you in uh, to, uh, to do what you do best,
Oh,
which is
cool.
DISC assessment,
Yeah, that'd be
and
fun.
as one of the trainings. So
Awesome.
I'm really excited about, again, learning and growing together as a group. I was really adamant at the beginning of this whole COVID thing. I had no
Yeah.
idea and still don't know what's going to happen. But I said to my team, there's two things. One, I want us to come out stronger as a team.
Yep.
And two, I want us to come out stronger as an organization. And I
Absolutely.
said, if we just do those two things, I think everything is going to be fine.
Absolutely. And it's just so it's, and that it was Gallup that did that poll in that, and it's been for years and years and years. They do this poll every year about employee engagement, and it just hovers right around 30, 31,
Right.
32, sometimes 33%. But for simple math, I'm thinking 3 out of every 10 people on my team are engaged. They want to learn more. They want to show up. And again, there's exceptions to every rule. So
Sure.
totally open to that. There's a blind spot, and that's going to be the name of my next book is called What Blind Spot, because there's blind spots that we have. Because I run into so many people in there that say, I don't have that problem on my team. And I
Yeah.
look at the team and I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, your head's in the sand, right? You're
Yeah.
paying me to tell you your head is in the sand. So please make it easier on yourself. So, I'm excited that you enlist outside people from the mastermind group, from the training group. I mean, there's just so much safety in having multitude of people around you. So I'm super excited to hear all that. So I'm going to transition because I got a tough question for you as we start to come in for a landing, but it's fun. But so I'm a total black and white person. I'm thinking there's only two boxes, right? And so I'm thinking and preparing for this, I'm like, I need you to help me understand from your perspective, that intersection of philanthropic and business, because all I see is philanthropic is what I do on my off time,
Mhm.
and business is what I do during the day. And I'm trying to understand, for an entrepreneur like you and the successes that you've had, how do you connect those two? Because that's my blind spot. I'm like, man, on one hand, I'm like, she's exactly where she should be. This is fantastic. She's, helping hundreds of people a year. And then on the other, my business side is like, hey, why don't you come work for me? Because, we could do a lot of fun together. So I'm trying to understand how those two connect for you. If you're able to unpack that for our listeners, that would
Yeah,
be
that's a
fantastic.
$50 million question.
I know.
You know, I think I've always thought of it as a business, to be honest with you. And then helping, just to your point, helping people who don't think about it as business. I have to be, a true confession. I hate the word charity. I
Sure.
absolutely hate it because I don't feel like the people that we're helping are charity cases.
Sure.
That's not what they are. They're
Yep.
part of our community. They're what makes all businesses successful. They're what, helps our tax base, stay consistent. And I think for us to be able to elevate everybody, not just the people who maybe have special skills or maybe have the opportunity. Um, again, I can't tell you how much of an honor it has been to be able to work with the homeowners that we do. They have taught me way more than I've ever given them, and I don't say that out of just pure rhetoric. It's really about um, somebody in their very worst moment, and you alluded to this before, invites strangers in their home
Yeah.
that they're going to say, I'm going to do this for you for free. Like, who in their right mind would even think that is just,
Right.
why would you do that? Like,
Yep.
it's not true, right? So
Right.
my commitment to the community has kind of, like as we were talking before, has taken me by surprise. I'm not from the Milwaukee area originally, and but I could see the depth in the souls that make Milwaukee what it is, and they just deserve so much more than they were getting. And so for me, it is. I'm not going to lie; it's a huge challenge to get people who I've got mine. Good luck getting yours attitude, because truly
Yep.
that's what it is.
Sure. Sure.
And then, not to get in the racism thing, but it's been really difficult because I'm not at all shy. And so when I broach the topic with people that it might be maybe what's holding them back is how they're thinking about
Sure.
who really needs help and who doesn't, it is met with denial and challenge back to me like I'm the wrong one, you
Sure.
know. So, I think when I look at and many people, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, said the same thing you've said over the years. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, you
Yeah.
could be,
Yeah.
making 7 times as much. You can be leading this. You could do that,
Yeah.
and that's, it will come. Like, it's all gonna be there. It's not gonna go away.
Sure.
But at this moment in my time, I needed to do this for whatever reason. Again, I was not planning on staying here. It was a part-time job, non-stress.
Once they got your
You know,
business cards, Lynnea, then you knew it was trouble, right?
Well, and I mean, we had a budget of $40,000.
Yeah.
That was including my salary plus the 10 homes. And my board said to me, as they should,
Yeah.
do you get paid this first year? You want to get paid next year? Raise the money.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that's one of the things that I think when we look at, the equalization of entrepreneurship inside of nonprofits and businesses,
Right.
certainly the bigger nonprofits are different, but the smaller and most of, small businesses, small nonprofits, if I were to able to do what I've done in a nonprofit scenario for a for-profit and turn something that was, small into a functioning business for 15 years,
Yeah.
starting at zero every year, there's something to be said for that. So I think that there's got to be, I appreciate the question more than Dave, because I would love to figure out a way to help people see on a bigger scale how powerful it would be for them to partner with a nonprofit,
Sure.
and not only from a learning standpoint, but also from an empowerment standpoint,
Sure.
both for businesses, their employees, and also the community.
That's
Because
all.
I don't think that you can have one without the other.
Sure. And I think you helped bring clarity to me because you said you look at it as a business. And I think that right there is already starting to bring it into a better focus for me, because I thought of it as a philanthropic effort that, and again, how you look at things is different. So I appreciate the fact that you said, hey, this is a business. I
Mhm.
have a team. I have a customer. I mean, it's just like any other company. So
Yeah.
the reality is, and there's plenty of companies right now that are nonprofit. So, it really doesn't matter at the
Yep.
end of the day. And I think that the way I look at it is the whipped cream is these 361 people that we made such a difference. I mean, it's one thing to sell a cheeseburger to somebody that hasn't had lunch yet. It's completely different to allow somebody to to your point, use their plumbing or to be able to walk down the steps. I mean, the lady that I helped, again, was afraid to walk down and do any of her laundry. I mean, did it, but imagine spending the day dreading walking down those steps. And so
Yeah.
in some small way, some suburban guy comes out there and helps and didn't know who it was, couldn't pick her out in a lineup today, but somehow, invested some energy and time in that. So I so appreciate the fact that you've committed your life to this point, because you've not only helped those people, but from the volunteer side, I'm just here to say thank you, because you've helped a ton of us be able to, grow closer. Like me, I got to grow closer to my kid that day that we invested that time. And, you can't get those moments back. So you're
Well, thank
making a
you.
much bigger impact than I'm sure, you're even aware of. So hopefully you'll find that way to make that connection, and you'll be able to, bring more people into it. Because I know in my past company, when we would have volunteer days, and we went to community warehouse was one place, and we invested a day, half a day, or whatever it was, and we just helped. There wasn't an agenda, there wasn't a team building. It was just purely, just let's help somebody.
Yeah.
We're fortunate, we're blessed to be able to have, let's give something back. We went to the food pantry once, so we have done those sorts of things. So I encourage anybody listening to connect with Lynnea and be able to explore that for your organization. So one last question for you is, if you had a tip of the week So this is Lynnea's tip of the week. What would you share with listeners that you feel like right now is super valid, can be maybe whatever it is, there is no box there. So that's
I would say that trying to act every day as if you could not fail.
wow. How would that change, right? I mean, if our mind lined up with that, because I talk myself out of way too much. So
Yep.
that's awesome. So Lynnea, what would be the best way for people to reach out and connect with you, to learn more about, Revitalize Milwaukee, learn more about, you as a human being? What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Sure. I'm an avid LinkedIn person, so you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I also would be thrilled for everyone to go to our website. It's freehomerepairs.org. And
Freehomerepairs.org. Wow,
freehomerepairs.org. Yeah.
you must get national attention on that, I would guess, don't you?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I think that there's it was a good find, let me tell you. I've been buying a lot of I just bought my own personal website, LKP International. So you talk about, forget, nationally. I'm gonna go international.
There
So
you go.
yeah, you got big ideas.
There you
Um,
go. Awesome.
but and there are certainly, send there, my email and all my contact information is on both. I'm pretty transparent. I'd be happy to help anybody, both in business and nonprofit. And I want to say, a huge thank you to you, Dave, for not only the time today, but I think when you volunteer, and I know this was true for you, because when you are in something, you're in it for the right reasons, and you're in it holistically. And I know that the persons that you helped that day walked away with more hope and more love in their heart than they did when they went into it.
Yeah.
So you probably are in their minds more than you think that you are.
Wow.
And when you reflect on that, if you think about what you brought to that person, where they were in their day, and
Yep.
how you changed their life
Yep.
going forward, can't be replaced or purchased.
Absolutely.
So give yourself a big round of applause for that, and the fact that you took the time to introduce that to your kids, because that's a huge leadership move from a parental standpoint. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I'm so ready to do it again. So, but you got to remember that I'm a novice. Okay. I did really good on that stripping. I did really good on that. When I saw that, I'm like, yes. And then the next project, you had me doing handrails, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it wasn't a straight one, of course. It was like around this thing. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And then you had me do a tile one, which I said, I'm not cutting tile, because the lady's like, are you going to break any of my tile? Because this is like really nice tile. And I'm like, probably. So I'm not doing it. So I tapped out on that one. So
good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, but feel free to, shoot some more my way that are the easy ones. So
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah. So
our next block build is coming up on August 14th and 15th. So we are absolutely looking for volunteers as well as sponsors to come in and party with us. So
gosh, love to. Absolutely. You had a great
all PPE will be provided. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure everyone's safe. So
famous last words. That's what I told you. I can't do tile, and there I showed up, and I'm just like, I can't do it. She's like, try it. I'm like, no, you're gonna. And then they're watching. That's like even worse.
Of course.
The homeowner's sitting there watching. I mean, nothing worse. I couldn't do it the right way.
Don't mess up, Dave.
No, exactly. Because then what do you do once you do?
Yeah.
I can't blame you. I can't run. I'm done. So. Well, I'll tell you what, Lynnea Katz Pettit, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for sharing your life a little bit and a glimpse into what's going on with you, and look forward to seeing way more stuff that you got planned internationally, it sounds like. So can't wait to see what you got planned, and keep us all posted.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's been an honor. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Take care.
Bye.